All right, good morning. Today, I am going to be showing you how to evaluate algebraic expressions. And you'll notice on my screen here that I have pulled up the Desmos calculator. You will find this on the Schoology page. There is a folder for it that says Desmos calculator, and you can pull this up because you're going to be using it on today's assignment. Now, before we get into evaluating algebraic expressions, I want to remind you from earlier in the week that when we are in algebra, we are going to be using those same four basic operations of add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And that the big thing we have to keep in mind is that sometimes we have to change how we show those. Now, addition, you are going to show exactly the same way. So you could write x plus 5. You could write a plus b. You could write 9 minus c, or plus c, excuse me, I'm doing addition right now. So addition will still be shown with that same old plus sign. Subtraction is the same way. You're not going to change how you show it. So you could have x minus 10. You could have p minus q. You could have 12 minus y. You're still going to show subtraction with a minus sign. I'm going to leave multiplication alone for a moment and go straight to division. We are going to change how we show that, because instead of using this symbol, we are going to use a fraction bar. So all of this, like I said, is review. I just want to make sure that I hit all the high notes of things. So like if I want to do x divided by 7, I would show it like that. If I wanted to do 10 divided by y, I would show it like that. If I wanted to do m divided by n, I would show it like that with a fraction bar. Now, multiplication, remember, is the one that undergoes the biggest change, and I'm not sure I have room to put that right there. But when we're multiplying, you're not going to use this symbol anymore. So no more x for multiply. We can use a dot, so we can do 5 times x. We can use parentheses around the x, parentheses around the 5, parentheses around both. Or remember that when it's a number and a variable, all of this becomes unnecessary. You don't need to put the dot or the parentheses, and you can just simply write 5x. So out of all of those different multiplications that I just wrote on the board, this one would be the preferred one. That's the one we would want to use. And that becomes especially important when we get into problems like we're going to be doing today. All right, so now let's talk about evaluating an algebraic expression. And you've actually done this before, so it's not like we have to completely start from scratch here. Here's what these problems are going to look like. They might say to you, evaluate x plus 4 if x is equal to 7. So this expression is telling you to take whatever x is and add 4 to it. So you can see here that all I'm going to have to do is take this 7 and plug it in where that x is. So this would then become 7 plus 4, which is 11. So nothing special I need to do there. If it's x plus 4, that means take whatever x is and add 4. So I'm going to take 7 and add 4 and get 11. So nice and easy there. If I said to you, evaluate 9 minus x if x is equal to 2, this says to take 9 and subtract whatever x is, so I'm just going to take 9 and subtract 2. which would be 7. So notice again there, nothing special I have to do. Just put a 2 where that x is and do the subtraction. If they said to evaluate x divided by 5, if x is equal to 10, again, nothing special here. Take whatever x is and divide by 5. So I'm going to take 10 and divide by 5. 2 would be my answer. So notice those first three, very, very simple. Take whatever number they give you for x, put it in the problem, and then work it out. But when I run across something like this, evaluate 4x if x is equal to 3, this is different because I have to stop and think about what 4x means. When I see 4x, I know that that means 4 times x. There isn't a plus sign, so that's not addition. There isn't a minus sign, so it's not subtraction. There isn't a division sign, so it's not division. The only operation that I can write without an actual symbol is multiplication, so this is 4 times x. So I can't just simply put that 3 in place of that x, because look what that looks like. I don't know if that's 4 times 3 or if that's 43. So that would be confusing. So here's where we have to remember those other ways that we can show multiplication. If it's 4 times x, I can show that with parentheses. And that's how I want you to do it. Not with the dot, but with parentheses. So this is going to be 4 times 3, which in the end becomes 12. So for adding, subtracting, and dividing, all you're going to have to do is plug the number in and go. On problems like 4x, you're going to have to remember 4 times x, and you're going to have to put parentheses to show that it's multiplying when you plug that number in. Because if I don't put the parentheses, then I'm looking at that thinking, okay, that's 43. And that's not what this means. That's not what this means. So when you see multiplications, you're going to have to add parentheses when you plug that number in so that you show that multiplication. I hope that makes sense. All right. So if I had this, evaluate 3x minus 2 if x is equal to 4. I know I'm going to put 4 where that x is. Well, this problem has multiplication right here because 3x means 3 times x, and then it has subtraction in it. So when I plug the 4 in for this x, because it's 3 times x, I'm going to have to put that 4 in parentheses. Anytime there's a multiplication, you're going to have to add those parentheses. 3 times 4 is 12, and then 12 minus 2 is 10. So parentheses are going to be necessary anytime you're doing multiplication in these problems. Now, I need to show you something else here. And this is not an operation that we've talked about yet today. Let's suppose I wanted you to evaluate x squared if x equals negative 5. Now, let's talk about this over here. X squared, what does that mean? Well, you know that means to do x times x. To take x and multiply it times itself. So if I want to do a negative 5 squared, that means I need to do a negative 5 times a negative 5, which should be a positive 25, right? So that's the answer I should get here. I want to show you something on this calculator you're going to be using. And it was this way on the calculator you used last year as well. So if I type in here a negative 5, and then I come right here and I hit this a squared button, you'll notice the calculator gives me the wrong answer. It gives me negative 25, and I know I want positive 25. The reason for that is the calculator only squares the 5. So it does 5 squared and gets 25 and then makes the answer negative. That's not what you want. So here's what you need to do to fix it. You are going to need to put parentheses and type the negative 5 inside of those parentheses. And then hit your a squared button. And notice now I'm getting the correct answer. So if you want to plug in negative 5 for x and do negative 5 squared, you are going to need to wrap negative 5 in parentheses to hold all of that together and then put that exponent on the outside. so that we then get the correct answer. So I want you to notice something. With subtraction, well, with addition, subtraction, and division, I didn't need to add anything to the problem. I didn't need to put parentheses. And it did the problem just fine. But on these last few examples that we've done, if you see multiplication or exponents, and I don't guess I should put that x for multiply. Let me put a dot. If you see multiplication or exponents, you're going to need to add parentheses to your problem. Okay, so now we're going to get into some examples now that are a little more complicated, and we are going to be using the calculator to help us with these. The way that I'm going to show the work on these next examples is the same way I want you to show it. Okay, so let's start with this problem. Let's evaluate x squared minus 2x plus 9 if x is equal to a negative 6. All right, so I'm going to fill in negative 6 anywhere I see x in this problem. So the first thing I see is x squared. I'm going to need some parentheses here. So I'm going to wrap that negative 6 in parentheses and put the exponent on the outside. I'm going to need those parentheses to help my calculator get the right answer. Then I see minus 2x. Well, this is multiplication. I know that means 2 times x. So I'm going to need to add parentheses here. So I'm going to, again, put that negative 6 in parentheses, and then I have my plus 9. So putting negative 6 in for both of these x's, I need to add parentheses here to account for the exponent, and parentheses here to account for the multiplication. Now that you have this written down, and I'm going to want to see that on your paper, now you're going to come over here to your Desmos calculator and type that in exactly the way you see it. So you're going to do parentheses, negative 6, close parentheses, and square. Minus 2, parentheses, negative 6, plus 9. So you're going to type the whole thing in all at one time. And you can see here that the answer on this problem is 57. So this is exactly what I would want to see on your paper for your written work. The problem with the numbers filled in, and then the answer. The answer you can get from the calculator. But remember, the important thing is, do you need to add parentheses or not? You do if there's an exponent, you do if there's a multiplication. Any other time, you do not. All right. Let's do 2x plus 5y if x is negative 1 and y is 3. So notice, on this one we have 2 variables. So we're going to fill in negative 1 where x is and 3 where y is. So start at the beginning of the problem. The first thing I see is 2x. That means 2 times x. So I'm going to have to put that x in parentheses. 2 parentheses negative 1. Now I'm going to work on this part. So plus 5y. Again, that's 5 times y. So I'm going to need parentheses there as well. So the negative 1 for x gets wrapped in parentheses because this is multiplying. And the 3 for y gets wrapped in parentheses because that's multiplying. So now I can come over here to Desmos and type in exactly what I have. And I see that my final answer should be 13. Okay. Next up, let's do 2 times x minus y minus 4z if x is 2, y is 6, and z is negative 3. So, let's look at what we're going to have to fill in first. We're going to have to fill in x minus y. Now this is a subtraction problem in here. So I don't need parentheses to show that I'm subtracting. So for this one, I'm going to put my 2 in my parentheses, and then I'm just going to fill in. So for x, I'm going to put 2, minus y, I'm going to put 6. And then I have minus 4z. This is multiplying, so I will need to put parentheses around that z. So no parentheses for x, no parentheses for y, because this was subtracting. I don't need parentheses for subtracting. Parentheses for the -3 because 4z is multiplying. All right, so here we go. 2 parentheses, 2 minus 6, close them up, minus 4 parentheses, -3. And it looks like our answer on this one is a positive 4. Now I want you to be sure, if I'm not making this clear to you why we're adding the parentheses when we are, to email me and let me know. Because if it's not making sense, then we need to try to Zoom so we can talk face to face and I can help you get this figured out. So be sure and keep me posted on how you're doing. Okay. Okay, so here's the next one we'll do. You'll notice this funny looking symbol. That is your square root symbol that you've seen in the past, and he is located on your Desmos calculator right down here on the bottom row. Okay, so the first thing we're going to fill in is x. We're going to do the square root of whatever x is. No parentheses are required for that. You'll just put the 16 inside of that square root. And then we have minus z to the second power. So when I fill in this z, I am going to need parentheses because I'm raising him to a power. So this is going to be minus, and then I'll put my -3 in parentheses and put that exponent on the outside. So start at the beginning of the problem, and as you look at it, I have the square root of x. I'm not going to need parentheses for that. Minus z squared, I'm going to need parentheses here because of that exponent. So now we type this into our calculator. Now, you're going to do the square root of 16. Now, I want you to notice that this flashing cursor is inside of that square root symbol. So if I try to keep typing, notice the square root symbol gets longer. I don't want that. My minus z squared is not under that square root. So here's what you're going to have to do. You've got these arrows right here, a left and a right pointing arrow. You're going to have to press that right arrow, and notice that moves the cursor over and gets it out of the square root. Then you'll do minus, parentheses, -3, close the parentheses, and square. So notice the problem over here needs to look just like it does on your paper. And this answer should be a -5. Okay. Let's do 5c to the third minus 6c squared minus 2c if c is -5. So again, start at the beginning. You have 5c to the third. c is to the third power. It's multiplied by 5. You are going to need parentheses here around that -5. Minus 6c squared. c is being squared, so you're going to need parentheses to make that happen. And then minus 2c, this is multiplying, so you're going to need parentheses for that. So over here now, we're going to do 5 parentheses, -5, close parentheses. And you want to raise that to the third power, so you'll hit the a to the b power and put in a 3. Then we want to do minus 6 times -5 squared minus 2 times -5. And notice on this one we get a -765 as our answer. So this button is for squaring. This button is for all of the other powers that you might need to do. All right. All right, on this one, we're going to evaluate 2c to the third minus ab over 4 if c is 4, a is 12, and b is 9. All right, so right here, 2c to the third. Start at the beginning, 2c to the third. c is raised to a power, so we will need to wrap that 4 in parentheses. So it's going to be 2, 4 in parentheses, cubed. Then we have minus ab. This means a times b, so this is multiplying. So one of those numbers is going to have to get wrapped in parentheses. So I'm going to do minus 12 times 9. A times b. So wrap at least one of the numbers in parentheses. I'm just going to do the second one. And then all of that is over 4. Now, when you go to type this one into the calculator, I want you to notice that your fraction bar goes underneath the entire top. So what I would suggest you do is you start by hitting your division key. You'll notice what that does is it creates a fraction bar with a top and a bottom. Type in the top. And then drop down to the bottom and type in your 4. And the answer on this one should be 5. And I want to do one last one with you. Okay. So these bars are absolute value bars. You may remember seeing those before, and they are right here on your Desmos calculator. Okay? So we're going to start right here at the beginning of the problem. So we have the absolute value of negative 2x. This means negative 2 times x, so do I need parentheses? Yes. That's going to be negative 2 times negative 4 plus 7. And I close my absolute value bars. Now next up, I see minus 3y. This again is multiplying, so do I need parentheses around my negative 8? Yes. Then plus 4z squared. That means 4 times z squared. So again here, I'm going to need parentheses for that number. You need parentheses anytime you are multiplying and anytime you have an exponent, so keep that in mind. Now time... Let me draw a line here to separate that. Now time to type this in. So first, absolute value bars. We're going to do negative 2 times negative 4 plus 7. Now I'm done with my absolute value bars. So now minus 3 times negative 8 plus 4 times negative 1 squared. And the answer on this one is 43. So, to evaluate an algebraic expression, all you are really doing is filling numbers in for the variables. As long as you are adding, just subtracting, or just dividing, you don't need to do anything special. But if you are multiplying or raising the number to a power when you fill it in, then you will need to put that number in parentheses to show the multiplication and to help the calculator get the exponent part of it right. If anything that I have talked about today in this video is not clear to you, then please email me and let me know. We'll set up a Zoom call so that we can clarify and make sure you understand. Thanks a bunch.